Hi, and welcome to Talent Talks with Rekroot. Today, we're getting into episode number 3 with our very special guest, Andrea Bullard. Andrea, if you don't know her, is an international bestseller, business coach, and CEO of Andrea Bullard Company. Today, we're digging in of when exactly should you make a hire specifically for financial advisors. This is something that challenges many, many people, and we're excited to get into it. Hello, and welcome to Talent Talks with Rekroot. I am Kimberly Buck Goff, one of the co-founders, and with me today, I have Morgan Strahan, also one of our co-founders, and very excited to welcome one of our guests, Andrea Bullard, onto the show today. So welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, well, so excited to get into it. First, I just want to give a little bit of a background into Andrea's experience and why we're having her on our Talent Talk show. So Andrea is the CEO of Andrea Bullard and Company. She is a business coach and very passionate about helping financial advisors just hit their business goals, achieve multi-million-dollar success. And she's also on the international bestseller list on Amazon with hitting 5 different financial categories. The book is called Turnkey Secrets, The Success, the Ultimate Guide to Building Your Multi-Million-Dollar Wealth Management Practice. So firsthand, I have seen Andrea coach many successful advisors. She has personally worked with Morgan and I as well. And we're just really excited to have you here. So thank you.
Thanks. So excited to be here.
Yeah. So really before we get into things, Andrea, I'd love for you to share just a little bit more about your company really before we get started.
Yeah. So my company's really hyper focused on helping financial advisors build a business that they love. And I think I'm going to use their words, help them get rid of the grind.
Mm-hmm.
There's too many financial advisors that spend their time doing stuff they don't like to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they feel overwhelmed, and eventually over time they can't do the one thing they came into the business to do, which is just to see people. And I realized that about 15 years ago when I was coaching my advisors, and they'd all say, I can't see more people you don't understand. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? What do I not understand?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember working with this one guy in Boston, and so I actually went to his office and thought he was just disorganized, and helped him for 2 days organizing his office. And 1 month later, he was worse than when I started. I thought, well, this isn't the answer. So I read the E-Myth, Michael Gerber's book, and he said the best businesses in the world have the best business systems. So what we do is we help advisors set their business so they just see people. We help them hire people, and we help them set up systems, and that allows them to build a different type of business and scale.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, oftentimes, I mean, Morgan, you and I can certainly attest to this. And obviously, Andrew, with you working with your clientele too, is so many advisors are caught too much in the weeds, right? And they are doing paperwork, they're scheduling appointments, they're coordinating, they're doing all these things, preparation. And it's like, yes, you could probably do that well, but meeting with more people, you're probably going to be filling your energy bucket much, much more than doing the administrative tasks and things like that, because ultimately you want to be in front of people a lot of times when you're an advisor, right? That's usually the type of person you look for. So being able to scale and taking that leap is certainly important, right? So taking that leap to hire, have good systems, all that fun stuff. So
yeah, I think what happens is that, think about when they first got in the business, they were taught to do everything. So they were taught to, take fact finders. They were taught to take applications. They were taught to call referrals, close deals, do the paperwork. But what they failed to understand is that to scale and to keep just seeing people, you need what I call the 4 pillars. You need a great vision. What are you building? And what I always like to ask advisors is this: what would your business be like if you could build it and just see people? And they go, I'm in. How do I do it? So I said, well, first, let's create that vision. I said, and the second thing you need is an A team. Because if you don't have an A team, you're going to end up doing stuff. You're going to end up controlling stuff. So I said, that's where some of you are now. Here's a third thing they need systems, and why systems gives them peace of mind. Systems give them duplicatable process, so they don't have to intervene, direct, train, all that stuff. And the last is leadership. Because if I give you a great vision, if you have that, and if you have an A team and you have systems, but you can't lead that, and it's a revolving door, you have a problem. So it's the 4 pillars, and allows them to do the one thing they love to do, just see people.
The ultimate goal.
The ultimate, isn't it?
As an advisor, right?
Yeah, and I think even as an entrepreneur, right?
Sometimes, maybe.
Have freedom.
Yes. Yes. Do what you do, to do what you want to do, why you started in this to begin with. And you really are able to kind of get them back there. I feel like it's almost a big gap between when a green entry-level advisor sees us to when they're meeting with Andrea. But, sometimes it might take 2 years, sometimes it might take, 15 years, but there's a great, whole circle when it comes to being an advisor. You start with all of these, you're seeing clients as you're told to see clients, you get to Andrea and you're like, why aren't you seeing more clients? And so she can teach you how to get back to that space.
And I think where they get stuck, I can't tell you how many advisors. I just had one call me the other day and he said, I don't know how to do this. I don't even know who to hire. I don't know how to hire, right? And then they say, once you get hired, I don't know how to train. I've never done this, right? And so if we look at some of the basic things of building a business, they have no idea what to do and how to do it. And some say, I don't want to do it. I'm not good at it, right? So help. And that's, again, what I focused in on. What do they need next? How do they build this so they can just see people? And I broke it down into what are the skills that are needed. So here's another example, which you guys plan. People say, I say, you need an A team. And they'll say, what do you mean? And I'll say, well, can you define an A player? And they'll go, I have no idea. I'm sure you led that too. And so if you want to have an A team, tell me you're an A player. They said, where do I be and how do I define that? And the problem too many times is that they define it by, oh, here's a job description. If you have the skills to do that job, you're hired. But the 3 of us know it's much more than that. 3 of us know there's personalities. The 3 of us know there's all much more to getting the right person on that team that fits in the team. It's defining who you love working with, who you don't love working with. It's all those personality traits. And then here's the other thing. How do you know they're really skilled in that?
Right.
You guys already know that. They can say they've done case prep, but what does that mean?
Got to test it.
And Andrea, do you help truly define with those advisors who they need? Like they may come to you and think they need somebody else. Just like that's the problem that Kim and I usually have is we'll talk to an advisor, we'll talk to a team, and they will say, this is what I need. And it's like, but is it? It's almost like we need you or somebody to kind of give us insurance of like, this is who they truly need, because they don't always really know even what is that A team person, what is that person filling? What is the role that they're doing?
I think that's such a great question, Morgan. And I find that that's where they really, really fall down. I'll give you an example. They will commonly say to me, I need someone just to assist me. Let's say they're new. They say, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I want someone to just to assist me. Right. And I'll say, do you really? So you want someone to assist you in what? Doing underwriting? You want someone, here's a classic one, to assist you in case prep? And so defining that role is critical. What do you really want them to do and what do you need them to do? Let me give you another example. Recently I had a client that said to me, I don't want to see more people. I'm doing case prep till 9 o'clock at night. I need help with this. So on his own, he decided he was just going to hire someone to assist him in doing case prep. He wanted a younger advisor that would be, he thought, less expensive. And a few years of experience, he'll say he'll assist me. It's a classic case. So I said, he wrote the ad, he sent it out. I saw the ad, he didn't run it past me. And I called him immediately. I said, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm hiring someone to assist in case prep. I said, let's walk you through this.
Yeah.
Very advanced. You're doing case prep at 8 o'clock at night. So I said, just think about this. You hire this young kid, 5 years old, that can do some data enter. Tell me how that gives you time back. And I said, don't you think you're still going to be doing case prep at 9 o'clock at night? Because he's not experienced like you. He said, well, I'll train him. I said, okay, so that's another hour of your day. So now you're doing case prep to 9 and another hour training. So you're doing case prep till 10. How many years do you think it's going to take for you to train him before he has the knowledge you have? And then he stopped. I said, 5 years? I said, look how much time this is going to take. You're not going to be relieved. To your point, Morgan, you're hiring the wrong person. I need you to hire someone smarter than you, more experienced than you, because from day one, when they hit that road with you, you stop case prep till 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So going back, if you could tell a brand new advisor anything on how to grow their career in this space, what would you say to them?
Oh, great question. I love it. The first thing I would say to them is what I learned through studying under Olympic and world-class athletes. First of all, you have to master the basics. And a lot of times people don't like me saying this. I said, that's going to take you 5 years of really working on the basics, mastering it, learning, mastering your basic skills. I said, but when you get to a certain point of production, you need to do the next thing. You need to understand, you need to put a business hat on, say, I'm building a business.
Okay.
I said, the sooner you get that, and that's when you come to someone like me, don't try and do this through trial and error. And I come and help you. Who's the first person I hire? Goes back to what you asked before, Robin, Morgan, hire. Who's that first person? How do you hire? Because I said, if we can build your team with systems immediately, you are years ahead of the game. You stop the trial and error and you stop the torture. So I said, and again, there's many learning experiences within even building a team. People would say, well, how long will that take? And I always like to ask them, how long do you think it'll take? And they always say the same thing. Oh, 2 to 3 months. I'll say, no, 1 year just to get it started. And they go, 1 year just to get this thing started. So that's what I'm telling you.
When you say the basics, because we have an audience of maybe some people that have been doing this for 25 years, maybe some people have been doing it for 5 minutes. What are the basics that you feel they need to master before they get to the business ad?
So I'm going to go back to even that word basics. I remember originally way back when my whole passion for coaching, it started when I was 5 years old. I've always been what they called then a tomboy, with a basketball underneath my arm. So I played Division I college volleyball and studied under world-class Olympic athletes and really wanted to speak with those Olympic coaches. What did you do? And I remember I came out and I said, okay, I want to have an Olympic volleyball team. What do I do? And I called an Olympic coach and he said to me, get them to master the basics. And when I hung up, I thought, there's got to be more to this. That can't be it. I called another Olympic coach. I said, okay, I want to have an Olympic volleyball team. What do I need to do? Same words, get them to master the basics. The more top coaches, that's what they do. If you go back to Tiger Woods, one of the best golfers in the world, what does he continue to master? Putting, chipping, driving. He also masters the psychology of the game. And then he has the physical presence. When I started my business, I took those 3 pillars of mastering the basics and applied it to advisors. It's the same. So if I go to the basic skills, it would be fact-finding skills. It would be approach language. It would be referral language. It would be networking, creating centers. These are the basic skills that I don't care how big you get.
Yeah.
You should continually master, practice, and get to be great at that. And people say, when does mastery end? I said, the day you quit. Those people that think they're as good as it gets, that's when their business goes down. Every athlete will tell you that, right?
Yeah.
But It's also the psychology of the game, and people leave that out. I mean, advisors, if you know, there's days for particularly new people, I always laugh, I'll say, when you're new, the first year, here's the psychology of it. You're going to be a millionaire, and the next day you're going to be homeless.
Mhm.
They all laugh, they know that.
No.
So there's the psychology of staying in the game. And then there's also, what do you mean, the physical part of it? We know being an entrepreneur and advisor is exhausting.
Mhm.
So what are you doing physically to take care of yourself? And that all matters. You know, if you're draining yourself, if you're staying up all night, if you're not taking care of yourself, if you don't know how to stay in that zone, it impacts what I call the basics.
Mhm.
So that's the basics where even when you have a team, that never goes away. Those basics need to stay with you. And the mastery of that is key.
That's really good. And I know, obviously working with you too, Andrea, you have worked with us in all of those areas, right? And it's after, really mastering those basics and sharpening those tools consistently and making sure that you're doing the same thing in order to, and the things, of course, that you're passionate about too, to build your business. So when a lot of these advisors are starting off, I think, especially in the recruiting side, we're always like, hey, you could become, have a team of 10 people. You could do this. You could become a specialist. You could become a leader. But ultimately, it's about building that first, getting to the basics, which certainly we understand. But when you operate with a growth mindset, working hard, long hours, it certainly comes with the territory, right? You're building this book of business and you're building this business and you're going. And I really don't think a lot of times when you were originally speaking with an advisor or a candidate, they don't really understand the business owner mindset of it that could happen in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road. Because you really do have to operate and essentially wear many hats. But when it comes to that point, you're working a ton of hours, right? And I know this is something that many people have struggled with, including myself and Morgan. When do you know it's time to hire outside help? How do you know it's time? How do you measure it? What does the process look like in terms of, really setting this stuff up for yourself? I would certainly love your advice. I'm sure our listeners would too, on how do you know?
It's such a great question. And I get asked that all the time. How do I know when I hire someone? So what I do with the advisors, I've created a unique document. It's an org chart, but it's not the org chart a lot of people see, which is a hierarchy org chart. It's a flat org chart. And I take the advisor first and I say, okay, tell me everything you're doing. So we go back to what are the responsibilities? Now, note, that's time. That's time. So what we do is what most advisors do when they're going to hire next, they actually look at their staff and they'll say, what do their staff need? And they hire so their staff has plenty of hours, plenty of time, they can do stuff. The problem with that is this: you're hiring what I call bottom heavy. You can have a lot of staff, big expenses, and that may not at all free you of time, particularly if you're the only person that's revenue generating on your team. So to know when to hire and who to hire next, I always go, if an advisor hasn't a team, I'll say, what are you doing that's taking a lot of time? So I'll give you an example. You're an advisor, you have one staff person that's doing a lot of stuff for you. Let's say they're doing underwriting, maybe they're doing money in motion, maybe they're filling their calendar. But if I look at your time, maybe you're calling referrals, seeing people, but let's say we see in an 8-hour day, you're doing 5 hours of case prep. I'm just using it as an example. That's time that if we take 5 hours away from you and we hire someone to do that, what do I give you back? All that time. When we hire some experience, you don't have to train. Now I give you that back. And that means you can generate more revenue within that time. Are you with me? So that's from just a financial standpoint, that makes sense. Let's give another example. You're new in the business. And I always say, when you hit, if you're just starting with insurance, when you hit about 160, 170 premium, you should be considering hiring. Why? I remember a couple of years ago, a guy came to me, he had 300,000 of premium and he still didn't have a team member. What happens when you get so big and so many clients? You're maxed by what time? And you're doing stuff. So what happens is that you hit that ceiling of complexity, and then all of a sudden your business starts going down because you have to stop seeing people. And here's the biggest mistake they make. They stop doing review meetings because they think, I don't have time to do it. And so now what happens to your existing clients? They're mad at you. Why are they going to give you referrals? You don't see them, you don't take care of them because you say, I don't have time. So when you're at about 160 a premium, you start hiring that first person. We start building systems that allows you to see people, that allows you to scale sooner, quicker. So my suggestion is when you're hitting 100,000 premium, you're going up to the 120, 130, really start seeing hiring that first person. But what stops people is this. They'll say to me, yeah, but Andrea, when I hire someone, I'm not going to be making any more money. But you have to keep investing back in so you can see. If you wait too long, you go down, and then emotionally you go down, and then you'll make less money, and it's a hard uphill battle. Does that help answer the question?
Yes. And I mean, even hearing the like 160 mark of premium, especially for newer advisors, you know, because oftentimes like, oh, if I'm at 100, does this make sense? Or I'm doing a lot of things I don't want to be doing. Here's actually a question I've had come across my desk. The first hire is someone that just calls and schedules appointments. What are your thoughts on that?
I would say right now, anyone that's hiring someone and they say, I'm going to hire a marketer, I'm going to hire a calendar,
Yeah.
right? The phoner to the calendar. Let's take those two words and nuke them forever and ever and ever. It is such a waste of time and money, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I have never in my 20-some years heard someone that's part-time, that I'll hire someone part-time, that part-time person stays forever. I've never seen it in my entire career. Here's the second thing. When you're a phoner, it's time. And when I see it's time, who's going to train them? And phoners don't know the business. If they're hired just to fill the calendar, and here's the problem with it. Who gets on your calendar? So what happens is if I'm a phoner, you give me a list. I don't know the business. I don't know who should get on your calendar. So I'm just going to try and get everyone on your calendar. Is that what you want, advisors? No. So I'm going to change the word. This is game changing for anyone listening. Whether you're new or whether you're advanced, you are going to hire, ready for this, a sales strategist. And that's the new label I gave it, and here's why. Don't you want someone that thinks like you? Don't you want someone that knows who should get on your calendar and who shouldn't get on your calendar? So for example, would you like your calendar full of C clients, C prospects? No, you're going to go sideways. Don't you want someone to know that you should have 8 prospects on your calendar? How many prospects a week? How many clients get on? Don't you want someone tracking your numbers? Don't you want someone to know your goals, to say, this case is open, there's no date next appointment, let's schedule it? When we started hiring sales strategists, because think about it, getting an appointment with a referral is what? Sales. You can't be afraid of that. Even getting a client to have a review, there's some sales, there's rapport with that. But sales, they know the game, particularly if I know this game. I know who gets on your calendar. I know if I'm going to hit that, you know, if I want to hit 200,000 of premium, who's open, who should I close, term conversions, they know this game. Hire that, and you watch your business grow. I did this with a guy in DC. He was going to hire a phone. I said, no, we're not doing that. And I said, we want to win. So we hired someone that knew the game, sales strategist that got in the game with them. This is a true story. This guy went from total revenue of 250,000 within 4 years to 1.4 million.
Wow.
He had
Where
3
do you
steps.
find that sales strategist?
Okay, well, that's where you come in. But this is, and this is, but just the title itself, Morgan, right? Think about this guy. He went to 1.4 million of revenue in 4 years. He walks through every Monday. His calendar is filled with the right people. That's why he got to that mark. That's exactly why. Because he knew the game. He knew he needed to get on the calendar. And ready for this? All those people that don't like keeping their numbers, the sales strategist keeps your numbers.
Right.
It's sales. It has activity numbers. if I know that number to hit this goal
Mhm.
and I'm tracking it, we're going to hit that.
Mhm.
So ask me, Morgan, how to hire this person. First of all, when you know this, titles matter when it comes to hiring.
It kind of sets the expectation a little bit.
Yeah. I would
Owner,
agree.
Yeah.
sales strategist.
So those people that are afraid of sales, I guarantee they're not going to
Right.
apply to that sales strategist role. Those
Right.
people that are not afraid of sales and are experienced, they're going to apply for that job, right? So we get the right people applying, which is the first part to getting that A team.
Mhm.
It's huge.
And have a true interview process. I mean, we're doing a whole webinar on this, and this may come out after we do it, but I think we'll be having it on our website. But if you don't have a selection process for it, you don't know how to compare candidates, you don't know how to really interview and select in the right ones. And, time and time and time again, I feel like we've come across it where advisors will be like, oh, I was referred to this person, or it's this person, family member, or what have you. And I'm not saying that's always bad, but I just always err on the side of caution, because what if something doesn't work out? And also they still need to go through the same interview process that everybody else is going through for legal reasons, for selection reasons, for multiple reasons. And if you hire the wrong people off from the beginning, it is a nightmare in terms of a team. And I think also then that will make advisors or business owners, whomever, reluctant to hire again. Because like, oh, that didn't work out. It's like, but you didn't have the right process or the right systems, right? So it's a puzzle piece in order to make sure that you really have the right team. So
I agree with you 1000%. And this is what I call the blind spot that advisors have. They think, oh, I know how to hire, right? How many people? It can't be that hard. I know how to hire, right? I've interviewed people before, right? And that's where they get in trouble. And I'll say, okay, I've created a whole hiring system. And how did I create that? What I did was every time someone hired the wrong person, I asked myself the question, how could we have caught that?
Right.
Sure.
How could we have prevented that?
Mm-hmm.
And so this system is designed for that. And so to your point, Kim, it has to be a long system. There's the old saying, hire slowly and fire quickly. But
Yeah.
advisors do that because they don't like it. And so I always laugh. I say, yeah, your uncle hired to introduce you to your third cousin removed. They came in, they can speak. Oh, they say they can type. Great, you're hired. Sounds good. The next day they come in, they're hunting and pecking, and they take smoking breaks every 15 minutes. And then you got to say, how do I fire them? I can't fire them legally, right? What am I going to do? And then you're stuck with the C player that sort of limps along, and then you hate it. It's just with this. I got this big team this past week, and we went through who's on their team, and on their team, ready for this, they only had one A player out of 5 players. And so that's when it's really tragic. It wasn't that these people aren't good people. It's just for the roles, these advisors are doing a lot, these 2 partners, because no one on the team can do what they do. You see? So it was set up wrong. They had the wrong people. These people couldn't do what they said they could do. So that's when they're going to not want to build because it's messy, it's uncomfortable. You're paying a lot. How many advisors say I'm paying a lot?
Right.
My team members, you've heard that, I'm paying a lot. They don't want to hire more. They didn't think through who to hire, how to put this together, and how to hire. So they got the wrong people.
Because you're like, I want to hire now. I need to do it now. I need to do it yesterday.
Yeah.
And then you're quick to make a decision. But it's like almost that fine line, right? You don't want to be you want to be open to meeting with candidates. You don't want to be too analytical about it, because there is the intuition portion that does come into play, but there's also the other, skills and assessment that you can take.
And again, just share, and you guys know this better than I do. 2 of the biggest mistakes people can make when it comes to hiring is this: because they want to save money, they think I'll hire someone experienced and I'll train them.
Yeah.
I cannot say how many times I want to tear my hair out, one hair at a time, because that would be less painful than working with someone that they were spending hours on training this. So I just spoke to a client yesterday, and a very advanced client, that 3 out of those 5 people were inexperienced. I said, let's put this in context. I said, you're worth about $1,000 an hour, ballpark. And he said, yeah, it's about right. So I said, let's say you spend 1 hour a day training.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That means per week, that's $5,000 lost per week because you're 1 hour training. That's $20,000 lost per month because of your training. I said, multiply it per year, we're over $200,000. Don't you think it would have been smart to hire someone at a higher pay level that had the experience and ready for this? They're smarter than you.
Right.
And he said, and the big thing I hear all the time is, well, I'm the guy. I said, you know what? That's the mindset you have to change.
Yeah.
You want to hire, if you hire people that are 10 times better than you in every area, guess what you get? Total time freedom. And that's the mindset they have to learn. And I learned that, again, I'm going to go back to Olympic coaches. They said to me, Andrea, you're going to be as good as your frontline leaders. So when I graduated from undergrad, I inherited a track team, 165 girls, high school girls. That's like herding cats. And I didn't know everything about track, to be honest with you. And who can coach 165 girls? Seriously?
Mm-hmm.
I remember I said, okay, this is what I have to do. I hired 4 assistant coaches. Every one of them were 10,000 times smarter than I in my area. In fact, one of them, his name is Warren Seagraves, was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. That's why I sound so great when I say, well, I had a national rated track team. Here's the truth. It wasn't about me. I was smart to hire 4 assistant coaches 10 times smarter than me.
Mm-hmm.
Every advisor needs to think that way.
Mm-hmm.
If you hire people smarter than you in every area, guess what you get? A brilliant business that grows without you having to be there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what if some people are concerned about the money and the investment? What would you say to them?
So it's a concern. And I always say, look, I tend to be conservative. I'm not asking you to go buy $1 million houses and cars, but I'll say, you're going to be as good as your people. And so those people that hired sooner and hired better, retain them, and they grew sooner, quicker. They could scale better. So I'll say, every time you have to delegate, you have to train, you have to make sure things are getting done because you don't have the right person. That's your time, and that's very, very expensive. So the thing that people don't value, put money value on, is their time. And so when I teach people to put money value on their time and multiply that out, even 15 minutes a day, I can show anyone that's been in this business 15 minutes a day how expensive that is. So say, oh, it takes me a few minutes. I said, let's value that 15 minutes. You're going to view it very differently.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a matter of time. And I think, Kim, when it comes to, 20,000 more, I'll say, let's go value your time. What if they could take that 15 minutes off from your platter and do it? First of all, you're going to stop doing things you don't like doing, right? I give you that time back. Now what you can do, you can prospect, you can meet a center, you grow sooner, quicker, and do the things you love to do. So I'm going to ask you a question. What do you find most challenging when it comes to looking for A players in this market?
I don't think it's necessarily finding the candidate. I think it goes back to what I was saying before, is a lot of time. Now, if we're working with, say, a more established firm, maybe an RA firm that's been around for, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, they know, right? They have their strategy put in place. They know exactly what they're looking for. Personality might, shake a little bit either way. But if it's an advisor and they come to us and they're looking for somebody, if they don't have their vision in place and they don't have their growth plan in place, like, you might as well just throw us out to the wolves and be like, go find a magical unicorn, because I don't know what I'm looking for. And then the personality gets involved. And then they're like, well, I don't know if I like that person. And you're like, but I thought you wanted someone that could do sales. I thought, and so that's the hard part, because sometimes you're out there looking and you're just not sure because this person isn't sure what they're looking for, which is our client. But if somebody is sure, and they know what they want, we go out there looking, you got to be a good attractor. It doesn't matter if you're looking for financial advisors that are commission-based or if you're looking to bring someone onto your team, but you have to be an attractor to be able to bring someone onto your team. They have to believe in what your vision is. They have to grow with it. And so a lot of times when we're talking to clients, I want to be excited to work for this person. And then it's easier to go and recruit for them.
Funny you should talk about that, Morgan, because just the other day I was giving a training on attracting an A player, and I talked about the pillar vision. I said, most people, and first I said to this whole group, have you written a vision? They said, yeah. I said, do you know what it is? And they sort of let, I said, can you get out of a drawer and read it again? And they started laughing. And I said, here's what I want you to think about. Writing a vision should be in 3 parts. Okay. The first part is, how's it going to change your life? And that's key. What do you want for you? What do you want for your family? What do you want as your business? Define for you walking in your perfect business and your perfect team. What is that for you? And to your point, Morgan, it has to be very specific, and it could be different for everyone. But I said, here's the second part of the vision they don't think about. You have to have a vision for your team players. Where are they going to be?
Right.
Where's their future? And I'll say, here's why. Smart, motivated people don't stay in dead-end jobs. So you know this. The experienced players will come back to me and say, I'm not working for him. I'll say, what are you talking? Why not? He said, because he's going to be the same old. He doesn't have any vision for me. I'm just going to be his assistant the rest of my life. I don't want that.
Right.
I think they need to understand that. But the third thing you mentioned was, this is the vision ready for this, and most of them don't get this yet. How are you going to change the world? And to your point, Morgan, we want to work for people that have a bigger vision than us. This gets into, when you have a vision of changing the world, it goes back to Disney, right? If you go back to Disney, it's amazing. He had a big vision that he was going to build this park that generations would come to. It'd be magical. I'll say an advisor looks at me like I'm crazy when I say that. I said, well, how are you going to change the world? Because I said, if you interview that way, or even speak to your clients that way, I guarantee you 2 things.
Right.
You're going to attract A team members, and you're going to get more referrals because it's a bigger vision than you. And so I've been really working in the space of helping advisors build that vision in 3 parts, because to your point, it matters. And particularly in this market where staff, again, let's be honest about it, assistants on the old days aren't going to exist. Staff are all being very experienced, right? And as this industry changes, they're going to have to be more experienced. It's not unusual for people to want their staff to all have CFPs, CFAs, Masters of Taxation. So this is all critical in building that business for the future. Yeah.
Andrea, can you give us an example of a time where you have worked with an advisor and they didn't hire on time? How detrimental was that to their business? Are they still around? I know you said ultimately you don't keep on adding a new business before. So I just want to talk about that in a little bit more detail. I mean, really, how did that impact their overall career too in their business?
Great question. It's funny. I'm going to bring up an example that just happened recently. There's an advisor who I've been talking for several years, and he has been in the business, I want to say 20 years.
Okay.
Barely. Didn't hire staff for the very point that he said, his words, not mine. He goes, I was just too cheap. And I just wanted to keep it for myself. I didn't figure I was making enough money, and I thought I can do this myself. I'm sure there's a lot of advisors that are thinking that now.
Yeah.
After speaking with me, and he's at the point where he's thinking about, ready for this, retiring. He's at that stage. And he realizes he wants to make so much money. So he was listening to my training on scaling. He finally hired his first person. Then he contacted me and said, I'm having my best year in the business. I can't believe it. And he goes, I'm so sad it took me so long.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
Isn't that sad? And this is a true story. This just happened. He goes, why did I wait so long? Well, it's because he figured he had to be retired. He had to really push it in gear, and he was having flat years. Can you imagine his best year ever? Because he finally hired someone.
Mm.
It's game changing. It's just game changing. That's all I can say. The right person.
right.
It was the
Right.
right person. I had a young guy hire quickly. He didn't go through the hiring system. He just hired. And what he did was a classic mistake. Oh, she was experienced. She said she was experienced. You've seen this before. Knows the system. So I hired her because she worked for John Doe and John said she was good. How many times have you heard that? Didn't bring her through a hiring
All the
system.
time.
Didn't really know who he wanted. Didn't know how to train. So he wasn't making money for 9 months. He kept her and was bleeding money paying her, and she was not doing anything for him.
Mm.
So didn't know how to hire, didn't get any help with it, thought he knew better, thought, oh, she was experienced, that guy had her, must be good for me, bled money for 9 months, and then became very discouraged about the business.
Hmm.
That to me is a second tragic story, both on both ends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On one side, it's almost like not believing in yourself enough, or, just being so hesitant because you want everything, right? But understanding if you can multiply, you can triple, you can, quadruple and all that fun stuff. And then also just not preparing, right? And all of this stuff that you're talking about is just prep work. And sometimes, especially when working with type A individuals, which is great. I love it. I consider myself type A, but sometimes I get lost. I'm like, the prep work, can I just get this done? Can I just get this done? But ultimately, it really will set you up in a very, very good spot if you just put the time in, right? And that's really what it is. And, seeking out experts like yourself to help understand, hey, this is what you need to do in order to set up to make sure you are interviewing for the right person, the right A person. You have the process for them to come in here and really learn what you need them to do. Because I will tell you, if you bring on an A player and you don't have systems, they're gone. They're out. They are frustrated. They're like, this place is a hot mess. I can go find somewhere else that really knows what they're doing. Right. So I feel like some of this has been like, oh, well, if you don't do this, you don't do this. But ultimately, this is reality. And you really do need to take hiring seriously and have a process for it, for sure. For sure.
I think that's smart. The two things let me say about what you just said. The biggest mistake I see advisors make whether they're new or advanced in it, they try and figure this out by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They hire someone and say they'll figure this out. And what I find is they limp along and then they'll call me years later and say, okay, it's not working. We need your help. So it would be like me deciding, because trust me, I'll tell you what my husband says, me deciding that I want to be a scratch golfer and I'm going to go practice on my own. I'll watch videos and do it on my own.
Right.
Well, my husband tells me every day to pick up tennis. And, I'm terrible. I'm a perfect shank. I always have people next to me. So until I get lessons, right? Until I get help, I guarantee you I'm going to be a hot mess. Well, everyone can understand that when it comes to sports, it's obvious. You're going to be a scratch golfer. What are the first thing you're going to do? Hire a coach.
Right.
Why do people in this business think I'll just do it on my own, I'll figure it out? I don't understand why. If you hire you to help find someone, you're going to find that A player sooner, quicker. And to Morgan, what you said before, you're going to help them know you don't even have a vision. What are you going to say? These are all the blind spots people have, and they hire the wrong people, and now they're stuck for a long time, and they get discouraged. So my biggest thing is get help sooner, quicker.
Yeah.
Top people I've coached, here's the most fascinating thing about them. They ask the most questions. And the average top producers in this industry, I read this the other day, has at any given time 4 different coaches. Why? They want to stop the trial and error. They want to get there sooner, quicker, faster.
Yeah.
I know I have coaches in my industry. I mean, I have several different coaches. Why? I don't know everything. I don't want to figure it out. I figure the trial and error is a painful way of doing it, right? So
Mhm.
my biggest thing is get coaching, get help. Don't try and figure this out on your own. It's expensive and it's painful.
One final question for you, Andrea. You had mentioned a leadership, or you had mentioned like really understanding leadership when you're hiring. That's one of the pillars. Do you have any books that you recommend around leadership?
The books that I love to read, and I can't think of specific names, I love to read the books, particularly if when it comes to the Navy SEALs and a lot of these military teams, because they're all about leadership. They're all about following the leaders and following the systems. So I think if we're going to model a concept, they're
Mhm.
brilliant. And
Mhm.
some of these guys have created, you know, if you look at the SEAL teams and some of these elite teams, they have their precision, they have to follow, they practice, and they have a command of leadership. I think it's brilliant. I think you can learn an awful lot from these people. I want to bring something else about leadership, which is so critical, which is a blind spot. When I coach an advisor, I just don't coach him or her. I coach they and their team. Why? What makes an advisor think that they're the only one that needs coaching? I think that's a blind spot. Their team needs help. Why am I going to teach an advisor systems when the team's going to run it? I want to teach that team to do it. But here's the second thing about leadership. Remember what I said before, that Olympic, you know, coaches taught me I'm going to be good as my frontline leaders. What I realize in this business is that advisors need their frontline leaders leading the various aspects of their business.
Right.
So what does that mean? When you have a leader, for example, leading case prep, you could have a team doing it, but the leader makes sure it's done. The leader makes sure the systems get followed. And so that means the advisors can walk in, trust the leader, know it gets done, know the case prep's done for the week. Without a leader, guess who ends up leading everything? The advisor. And that's exactly what they don't want. It's time. So if the advisor, if you're an advisor, listen to this, and you're having to make sure case prep gets done, you're having to make sure your calendar gets filled, you're having to make sure underwriting is going through or money motion is going through, that tells me you don't have frontline leaders. That should not happen. So it's a structural difference, and it's huge. So when hiring, we go back and look at that one document I talked about, and I say, are we hiring for a team member or are we hiring the leader? And that means you've got to look for leadership skills. And that's another element. Can this person lead? So that's a key component to building this team. And without that, you have time and you can have a mess. And a lot of team members have that because they don't understand that component of leadership.
Well, that's great and so insightful. And, you know, there's many different facets to hiring. I feel like we could talk about this for like a 3-day conference if we really wanted to. And so, you know, kind of coming back to our theme of really today's show of, hey, when do you know it's time to make a hire? You know, I think that understanding your 4 pillars essentially is what I'm hearing you say. Really being at that mark. If you are on the advising side, roughly 160,000 a premium. If you're doing the insurance side, and really just knowing it's almost like that point of you are still a little bit uncomfortable making the hire, but you got to make that investment. Otherwise, you're really gonna cross that threshold of being too busy, and then you're going to lose the clients that you work so hard to get in the first place. So really taking that on, and then there's obviously the process and the systems behind it. But ultimately, you know, that's a big portion of what I took away from today. Morgan, would you add anything else to that, or Andrea, anything else that you want to add?
No, I think it sums it up pretty well. And just the aspect of, you know, mastering the basics and, you know, getting to those basics and then moving from there. I mean, I think sometimes in this industry, we go so fast or we put the cart before the horse. So we're trying to hire somebody and it's like, yeah, but do you also understand where this is going. And I think that goes back to kind of having your vision. So, you know, like takeaways for me.
Yeah, and I'll say one thing, leave everyone with one thought. Years ago, I when I first started writing my first book, I said to this industry, stop hiring assistants. You don't want to hire assistants. And that's what everyone had, was an advisor assistant. And they'll go, what do you mean? I'll say, do you want someone to assist you and you do stuff and they just assist you? Or do you want to just see people and they run your office? I want to run the office.
Yeah.
Okay. So I predicted that, looked at that, changed how they were hiring, who they were hiring, and then we put systems in place. I'm going to make this prediction. This industry is changing again. So my prediction is staff, a lot of staff you see today is not going to exist 3 to 5 years from now. And here's why. AI is going to take over their roles. Trust me when I tell you, AI, they won't be filling out applications. They won't be getting paperwork. AI is going to put this all the way through, take all these roles. A new question an advisor needs to ask is this, okay, what now will my team look like? And this is a critical question to hiring now, because I believe the future team is what I'm calling the prospecting concierge team. This goes back to that vision of, okay, if what I'm saying is accurate and on, then we need to go back and ask that question of, now that your team doesn't have to do this, can an advisor, can a team give more value to the client? And who do we hire on a team to give value? Can I have a team of 5 people that give incredible value to a family or to a business that one advisor can't do? And this is where I'm working now in this space of, what's the future look like? How does your vision need to change? Who you're hiring, what their roles are, but also what's the value and what's the client experience with this team? And I think all advisors at Advance need to pay attention to this, because AI is about to change all of our worlds.
Thanks so much for your insight, Andrea. Really appreciate you coming on the show today. And we will have all of your contact information in the show notes. Thanks, everybody. Until next time.
Thanks.